Little uncle is a fascia gun. After running 800 meters, I hid under the quilt and used a vibrating massager. Little uncle barged in and said in a cold tone, "Is it that comfortable?" I nodded vigorously. "Massage is really refreshing." Later, he took off his tie and tied my wrist. "It's too small. The speed is also slow. Try me." "Little uncle, that's just a fascia gun. The school is sick." After evening self-study, "We still have to run laps." I grumbled and took out the fascia gun I bought online, turned on the switch. A tingling sensation instantly spread from my thigh. The refreshing feeling shot straight to the top of my head. Just as I couldn't help letting out a long sigh, the door was suddenly pushed open. The "ah" in my throat got stuck there, and I immediately sat up straight in embarrassment. Little uncle stood at the door against the light. His eyes were darkened and clear. Little uncle is back. Afraid of being punished for running, I guiltily reached out to turn it off, but my foot panicked and kicked it to the maximum vibration gear. So in the silent room, there was only a strange bulge lying between my legs, making a crazy buzzing sound. "What are you doing?" His voice was a bit hoarse. "I'm using this." I reached down and grabbed the thing that was vibrating wildly. Suddenly, he turned his head away. A touch of red climbed up his earlobe. "How can you have the nerve to show it to me? Turn it off." Is he too old to accept even a massager? How hard he must be working at his desk all the time. Suddenly, a trace of distress welled up in my heart. I decided to recommend this useful massager to him. So I cleared my throat. "No need to turn it off. You can just come over and try it. This is really comfortable to use." To his eyebrows visibly twitched. "Do you know what you're talking about?" It's no wonder little uncle is scared. Such a big massage head is crazily bumping in the quilt. "It's a bit fierce." I clenched my right hand and explained while pressing it in the palm with the vibration. I quickly adjusted it to the soothing gear. "It simulates human movements. It's just a bit exaggerated. And it can reach deep inside and make the body completely relax. It's even more effective than a real person." Little uncle frowned tightly, and his voice unconsciously sank a few degrees. "Not really. You've even tried a real person?" Seeing him rub his temples irritably, I suddenly felt a bit guilty at the bottom of my heart. Because he picked me up. He is so busy that he goes out early and returns late. So he has no time to accept new things. I resolutely reflected on my mistakes, rolled up my sleeves and hugged his thigh. "Little uncle, don't be afraid. I'll help you get familiar with it, by hand first. You'll like it. This muscle is really tight." I took the opportunity to touch it randomly. Happily, I leaned my head on it. This is not a loss. Suddenly, I felt that the male lead in shoujo manga had a face. If I were those heroines, I would also be willing to fall. However, just when I was only 0.1 millimeters away from the abdominal muscles, I was suddenly picked up like a chick. "Evie!" I was so scared that I shivered. The small note that I passed with my best friend during class suddenly fell to the ground very coincidentally. The chat records with my best friend can't be seen. Don't look. But when I panicked and reached for it, the content had already slowly unfolded under his slender fingers. "Best friend. What are you in a daze for?" I want to kiss my husband." "Don't make noise. That's not a real husband. Just an idol. I'm a girlfriend fan." But if I said it myself, it would only get darker and darker in front of little uncle. This old-fashioned person. Unexpectedly, my silence made him lose his composure. "Do you have a boyfriend?" For the first time, I heard his voice trembling coldly. "Did you buy that because of him?" His eyes were as thick as the boundless starry night. Stars seemed to fall down at any time. "This fascia gun is indeed endorsed by my idol. So, it's not wrong to say so." So I nodded hard. His nose flared slightly. The note was crumpled into a ball and thrown on the ground. His hands were shaking. "When you use it, are you thinking of him?" "Sort of." So I nodded again. "The things endorsed by my idol are really useful. Stay away from him." He almost squeezed out this sentence through gritted teeth. "And don't let me see this kind of thing at home again." Why doesn't he let me use the fascia gun? I was almost in tears. But what should I do if I'm very uncomfortable? He took a deep breath and said helplessly, "Do you just like this feeling so much?" I nodded and bit my lower lip and begged Cocathus lie. "Otherwise, will you help me?" I thought. If little uncle gets tired from massaging me, maybe he will allow me to continue using it. His eyes were so deep that it seemed ink could drip out. "Please." I pouted and reached my hand into my nightgown and drubbed my increasingly sore leg. I had already run 5 laps before evening self-study. As a result, I was punished by the counselor on duty for talking during self-study and had to run 5 more laps. Which beautiful girl can stand running for kilometers a day? He gritted his back. Ethan pressed my hand. "Don't move around." Then he helplessly closed his eyes and let out a long breath. "Go take a bath first and wait for me downstairs." Great. 3 for this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I must enjoy it to the fullest. So I not only turned the sofa into a whole sofa bed, I also projected a long-treasured online drama blockbuster, just waiting for little uncle to come. Unexpectedly, when I was browsing my phone, a fresh and hot local post suddenly popped up. A girl I have a crush on has a boyfriend, but still asks me to spend the night together. What should I do? Where did this role model come from? The female among females. I quickly clicked on the blog post. A girl I've accompanied for 15 years confessed today that she has a boyfriend, but still asks me to help her relieve. What should I do? 15 years of companionship. It sounds a bit familiar, but there's also something a bit strange. However, as someone who loves to eat melons, I naturally didn't think much and replied, "She must have you in her heart. Otherwise, she would have ignored you 10 years ago." There was an immediate reply in a few seconds. Presumably, he was watching the phone. "But she always avoids me on weekdays. It seems like she's very afraid of me. This big brother named Heartbroken Big Dog is really sad." For some reason, I suddenly thought of little uncle confiscating my novels at ordinary times. And if I'm even 1 minute late for the 10 o'clock curfew, he will go out and catch me. I couldn't help shivering. My fingers were flying on the screen. "Is it because you are usually quite fierce? I'm a few years older than her. I usually manage her a bit more. This isn't a solved case." I continued to comfort him. "She must like you. Maybe having a boyfriend is a lie. Don't believe me? Try testing her later. She will definitely break down." After turning off the screen, a sense of pride welled up. "So good. I helped another confused teenage boy again. I am very pleased. It's just that for some reason, little uncle's appearance suddenly popped into my mind and couldn't be driven away. He also likes to manage me a lot. Sometimes it's a bit annoying. But I know very well that I can't live without this kind of annoyance. I also don't know if little uncle will have a different side. Even I will feel happy because of his possessiveness and feel cared for." I covered my face and felt that this kind of thought of mine was a bit abnormal. Will he show it to me? My face suddenly got a bit hot. And there were also little uncle's footsteps coming from upstairs, getting closer and closer. I couldn't help looking up at him, and my pupils suddenly constricted, because on the bright screen was the post I had just replied to. Could little uncle be Heartbroken Big Dog? I immediately lowered my head, and a strange emotion surged in my heart. I have to find a way to figure it out. For shy? The tall figure slowly approached. Feeling the sofa sinking, my tongue got tied. A little, wrapped in the man's pine fragrance. I panicked and grabbed the remote control, clicked on the projection, and randomly selected a Hollywood blockbuster. "Little uncle, let's watch a movie first." His slender fingers tapped the back of the sofa behind me casually. The fragrance of his body wash gradually seeped into my nostrils. It was so good smelling that it made my heart itch. The movie can help you get in the mood. Are successful people so particular? You need to get in the mood for a massage. I was thinking about how to reply to him when I saw the figures of the male and female protagonists appear on the big screen. They were hugging and kissing. The ambiguous sound was particularly obvious and alluring in the silent living room. I hurriedly turned my head away, but bumped into his hot eyes. Does he know that we are watching this kind of movie? What dirty talk is little uncle saying? Also, who is this he's talking about? The ambiguous atmosphere was steaming. My not-so-clever brain was turning even slower than usual. And why did the boy in the movie start unbuttoning the girl's shirt? I swallowed and a strange tingling itchiness climbed up my back. I was thirsty, and little uncle leaned closer and reached out to lift the broken hair behind my ear. His voice was like a temptation drifting into my ear. Does he know that we are about to start? As he spoke, his hand slowly swam from the back of my neck behind my ear to the button on my collarbone. As his fingertips passed by, a current shot through. My heart was beating inexplicably and continuously speeding up. I hate little uncle so much. Why is it that I am already dizzy and my breathing is speeding up because of this inexplicable heat? But he can sit so upright on the sofa, with a smile of controlling everything. When his hand slid towards the button on my collar, I suddenly grabbed his knuckle. He was stunned and suddenly looked at me. There was some expectation in his eyes. What do you want to confess? Confess? No, you should confess. Say if you are the one who has been by my side for 10 years and liked me for a long, long time. 5. So I deliberately put the hand he was about to withdraw on my collarbone, holding it, guiding it. Little uncle, why are you always asking me about others? His hand suddenly shrank, and his breath, held in his nose, suddenly became short. Just like a flustered big dog who has been discovered with a secret. So I became even more aggressive, glancing at the way the girl in the movie was sitting on the boy's lap, climbing onto his knee, in a somewhat clumsy way with hands and feet, drawing circles on his obviously tense thigh with my fingers. What? Are you jealous? Unexpectedly, I didn't sit firmly. My thigh was sore again. When I reached out, I directly lost my balance and fell backwards. Just when I thought I had really gone too far this time, a powerful big hand suddenly firmly supported my back. I was lying on his arm like this. Without even having to move, he steadily brought me back to the sofa. His Adam's apple rolled. His rough palm brushed across my slightly parted lips. A mumbled sound was an answer to the question just now. Why are you so small everywhere? I was placed astride his thigh by him and was actually stunned for a moment and forgot to move. Just feeling the hand that just saved me, rubbing the corner of my clothes and reaching towards the soft flesh at my waist. Then it seemed like he remembered something. Suddenly, he withdrew his hand and tightly clutched my clothes. It seemed like he was enduring very hard. His voice was hoarse. Haven't asked you yet. Is it okay? 6 gunshots came from the projection. It seemed to be a spy thriller where both sides had to hide their identities. The line "Who are you?" that came suddenly made me lose my soul. No more massage. I almost jumped off his lap in fright, sitting back on the bed in a panic, tightly clutching the corner of my nightgun. There was still the temperature of his palm on it. His hand was just there a moment ago. My heart suddenly skipped a beat, making me both ashamed and annoyed. But in my heart, I unconsciously longed for the strength of his grip just now. How could I become like this? And on the screen, there was a new update from Heartbroken Big Dog. What reason can I use to get closer to you? I hid under the quilt and couldn't helping over and over. Could he be little uncle? And could the person he's talking about be me? How I wished to hug my moon. After a while, he deleted it again. I'm not worthy. Forget it. But can I wait a little longer before giving up? I was like a pervert, pondering every word of his hidden love and regret. Although I am not a expert Sherlock Holmes, but I have a battle-tested Sea King best friend as my advisor. I'll ask at school tomorrow. So I took a screenshot and draped myself in the small quilt contentedly. And there seemed to be the sound of water coming from outside. Didn't little uncle take a bath already? I thought. But before I could come up with an answer, I fell asleep. In my dream, he turned into a big bad wolf and wanted to swallow me. No matter how much I begged for mercy, it was no use. 7. Little uncle won't let me use the fascia gun, so I'll take it to school. It just so happens that there is a sports meeting these days. While massaging myself with a grimace, I described last night to my best friend Kale. She patted my shoulder with dark circles under her eyes that clearly showed she had been up all night again. Sister, it's obvious you haven't had any experience. You're so scared just by smelling a little. I laughed. You eat well but are so weak. She hugged my neck and wailed. Don't mention it. I found a new milk dog who is 3 years younger. That's really not a human being. If it wasn't for the fact that I have a competition event today and begged for mercy, I wouldn't be able to sleep last night. As she complained, she didn't know where a bouquet of flowers appeared. Someone just won the first place in the sprint this morning. He looks just like your idol. She stuffed the flowers into my arms and the fragrance was overwhelming. Don't say that your best friend doesn't help you. Just take your little fascia gun to the backstage. It will definitely enhance your relationship. Can't kiss your idol? Can't you kiss a substitute? It still has to be my best friend. She eats meat herself and doesn't forget to let me have some soup. She patted my shoulder again with a tone as steady as an old dog. And when it really comes to that step, you'll naturally know who is in your heart. She really is an advisor. I enthusiastically ran to the backstage. Watching the 1.8-meter tall dark-skinned sports student be in ecstasy under my fascia gun greatly satisfied my vanity. Is it comfortable? Comfortable? Do you want it to be faster? Harder? After messing around for more than 10 minutes, I didn't know when I was sweating all over. Just when I was persuading him to put on his clothes and get ready to go on stage to receive the award, the door suddenly opened. Sitting on the podium, in addition to the old-school principal, there was also a familiar ink-colored suit. 2 long legs are crossed, and the whole person leans casually in the soft brown sofa. He smiles and rubs the edge of the teacup with his fingertip. Those familiar eyes are staring at me coldly. Did you have a good time? Oh no, no. How could I forget that little uncle is a school director? Now it's impossible to clear myself even if I jump into the Yellow River. It's not what you think. You. Listen to me. He almost dragged me to the underground garage. Just standing there, he exuded a strong sense of oppression. Get in the car. Before I could react, I felt my body lifted off the ground. In the next second, the scenery in front of me flipped upside down, and I was picked up by him and stuffed into the back seat. The cuff of his shirt swept across my collar. His palm firmly clasped the back of my head. Why? He looked at me. The storm in his eyes was like a poison knife, ready to devour me completely at any moment. The car suddenly jolted. I hurriedly hid in the corner. My back was against the car door. Feeling a chill, my heart jumped directly into my throat. Come here. His voice trembled because he clenched his fist. There was a smile on his corner of his mouth. Why? Don't you want to? But his eyes were full of pain and unwillingness. I have never seen little uncle like this. So rather than explaining and refusing verbally, my body instinctively wanted to comfort him and obey him. So I slowly moved closer. But the 4 kilometers last night and not stretching made it very painful. The corner of my pursed mouth caught his eyes, covered with a mist that I couldn't understand. For him, you don't cherish yourself so much. He pinched my chin, his hand holding with restraint. He is angry. What should I do? Act coca, this lie? I lowered my voice and softened my stance, pressing my forehead against his. I felt his whole body tense and tremble because of my pressure. Little uncle, it hurts. But my showing weakness didn't turn me the man's pity. Instead, it provoked his mocking smile. Why didn't you say it hurt backstage just now? Because I wasn't the one using the massager just now. But I didn't dare to say it. I could only lower my head and admit my mistake. It won't happen again. Won't happen again? His tone was cold. Evie. Why can he but I can't? Suddenly, the car passed through a tunnel. The familiar daylight just now disappeared. There was only darkness in front of us. At such times, senses other than vision become extremely keen. So I heard his impatient breathing on the back of my ear. It was itchy but very comfortable. Evie? Try me. Okay? And a calloused fingertip rubbed on my cheek. Tell me what you like. I can learn. Until the phone slipped out of my pocket due to the bump in the tunnel. There was a message that the boy had just sent me. Did I cause you any trouble? You are really great. I feel much better. The blue light from the screen shone on his pitch-black eyes. Those usually gentle eyes were as desperate as a frozen air. Oh no, little uncle must be very angry. I usually have to write a self-criticism if I sneak out to play for a while. What will he do this time? Will he scold me? Or will he pick me up and beat me up? I thought of the worst thing in my mind. The more I thought about it, the silence in the car made me more panicked. It was like drifting at sea, helplessly feeling myself slowly sinking to the bottom. The palm holding my chin froze there. I don't know how long it passed. Only when the car drove out of the darkness did he, like countless ordinary mornings, help me straighten out my messy clothes. Only there was a touch of imperceptible red at the corner of his eyes. Evie. Forget it. 9. He asked the driver to turn around and send me back. Coincidentally, the sports meeting ended. Kali organized a party at a KTV. People were coming and going in small groups. The crowd pushed me forward. It was only then that I belatedly realized, little uncle doesn't want me anymore. 10. He picked me up from the stream when he was only 13 years old. 2 children who were unwanted lived in a rusty door next to the village, building a shed and living. At that time, there was an infectious disease. People said that I had have one's brain damaged. Maybe something like have one's brain damaged or burned out, which could be had a fever and damaged my brain and would Drew leave in if I was saved. But he stubbornly refused to let go. Why is our lives in the hands of you adults? You give birth if you want, and throw us away if you don't want to be responsible. Are we just supposed to wait for death? Later, he went door to door in the village and cowed Ed to get millet. He cooked it into porridge and fed it to me. His hand was stained with black firewood and he burned off a layer of skin. He was still foolishly happy. At the risk of being kicked into a cripple by a cow, he stole milk from the cowshed. At that time, I was 3 years old. The first sentence I said when I woke up was uncle. Funny, right? Not dad, or mom, but calling a 13-year-old boy uncle. He, who was shorter than the firewood, dropped the wood and froze. Then he laughed so hard that tears came out. This little uncle has been called by me for 15 years, since I wore pigtails and started going to school with a school bag. He was so poor that he was chased 2 miles when he stole a steamed cornbread, a kind of steamed bun. But he still didn't abandon me. Now he doesn't want me anymore. 11. I hugged the 18 male models that Kali ordered and cried loudly. She drank a cocktail and laughed at me for being so spineless. You like him. Is this love? This is the sadness after being abandoned. My best friend was still adding fuel to the fire. What a pseudo-incestuous relationship. I'll make materials for you two tonight. If you like him, just do it. When you do it, you'll be fierce, forgetful, and desperate. I pouted. You're still talking about me. Why did you order so many but not do anything? She smiled sheepishly. Suddenly I feel it's boring. You know, whenever I look at anyone, I think of that little milk dog's face. I might be also falling in love, right? Is this falling in love? Now when I look at anyone, it's also little uncle's face. On one hand, I'm so angry that I don't want to talk to him. On the other hand, I want to climb up and pinch him. Better yet, bite him so that he feels pain. Pain so much that he never dares to abandon me again. I clicked on the homepage of Heartbroken Big Dog. He didn't know when he changed his profile picture to all black. The name was also changed to a. My heart suddenly felt uncomfortable, as if someone had squeezed it. I didn't know how to make myself feel better. I angrily grabbed a bottle of beer and put it to my mouth. The smell was strong. I drank it awkwardly uncoughed. After getting drunk, I typed a lot of words on the screen. Then I deleted them all, until a figure suddenly appeared at the door. Tall and slender, gentle and refined. Looking again, my best friend's face changed. Listen to my excuse. I came here to write a paper. Do you believe me? Her little milk dog took her away. Sister, if you want to write a paper, write it on me. Is it that I don't have enough papers? Let's go back and study hard together. okay? When passing by, she turned back and said to the person behind, Brother Marcos. Thank you, Brother Marcos? Marcos? The light in the Kate, Evie was dim. Only a few disco balls were flashing. The light in the corridor shone on his white shirt. With deep features and cold white skin. He was playing with a VIP Ardent gave it to a girl in a red dress. That girl had big wavy hair and 2 dimples when she smiled. She was looking at him shyly and timidly. Just like many times when I looked at him. And little uncle was just standing there. Smiling slightly at her. What about me? Sitting there. I couldn't say a word. It was like being choked by someone and having a hard pinch on my heart. 12 Have fun. He looked at me and smiled politely. Polite like a stranger. Saying that, he was about to leave. His voice attracted many people to stop and watch. I suddenly burst into tears. I ran over and squatted at his feet, holding his thigh and not letting go. Don't abandon me. Including that sister with dimples. She pulled his sleeve back. Maybe she thought I was some kind of weirdo. Don't cry. Little uncle shook off her slender fingernails. Frowned and squatted down to hold me. He looked at me from top to bottom. At a loss. Evie. Don't cry. When you cry. I'm stupid. Let's go home. Evie. Let's go home. After running around all day, I was almost holding on. So leaning in his arms. I completely lost my strength. Little uncle. My legs are so sore. The hand holding me stiffened. He pretended to be relaxed and let out a long breath. I'll massage it for you when we get back. If it weren't for the fact that the arm holding me was tightly clenched, I would believe that he was fine. So I turned around and hugged him. Before that, I have a question. Can little uncle answer me? What? As soon as I raised my neck, he obediently lowered his head. His urlobe was close to me, slowly turning pink. The question is like this. I couldn't help swallowing. He is so handsome. I really don't want such a handsome person to be taken away by others. Then I closed my eyes, swayed steadily in his arms, smelled the pine fragrance on him that freely entered my nose, and comfortably hooked his neck. In the accelerated pulse, I gently kissed him, feeling his body tense unnaturally. I slowly opened my eyes and bumped into those enlarged pupils, filled with disbelief. After asking the question, "Can you give me an answer?" I shyly lowered my head and shrank. Little uncle has always been self-restrained and polite. When I had my period when I was young, I thought I had some incurable disease. He bought me sanitary napkins and even demonstrated how to wear them with a doll in person. Just because of this, he blushed all day. When he saw me, he lowered his head. When he walked awkwardly. But today, he almost wanted to blend me into his bones. Little uncle. I twisted my wrist and asked, "Why did you tie me up with a tie?" Well, he kissed the palm of my hand and gently bit it. You are so naughty. His slender fingers gently rubbed on the upper side of my knee again and again, like a feather brushing past. It was so itchy. It was directly itchy to the bottom of my heart. My body couldn't help shrinking. His breathing also gradually became heavier. The end of the tie was pulled over and covered my eyes. His fingers also moved up little by little, from the base of the palm to the fingertips. Evie, has he been here? I whimpered and pushed his approaching shoulder outward. Unconsciously, my hand knocked off the tie. Those eyes in front of me were just looking at me, with no intention of leaving. Evie, look at me. Evie, call my name. I kicked the fascia gun that was secretly hidden at the foot of the bed without any pattern. Its probe should be very fast even at the lowest speed. But now it doesn't seem so powerful. And little uncle's corner of his mouth slowly rose. You shouldn't have bought a fascia gun. You should have bought a water gun. He smiled and took it over. Water gun? Well, that's more like you. In every way. My eyes suddenly blurred. I was momentarily stunned. When I realized it, I angrily bit on his forearm that was trembling with a naughty smile. Ouch, he gasped. But he kissed me, even more fiercely. You ungrateful little thing. I'm so good to you, little uncle. I was weak and buried my head in his hot and humid neck. Profile picture. Change it back to that Evie. I don't like the black one now. My heart was pounding. I guessed his reaction when he was exposed. I said in an extremely calm tone. My waist suddenly became even more sore. But after a moment of hesitation, he lowered his head and blocked my lips again. I never used those social software. Could it be that heartbroken big dog really isn't him? I couldn't believe it no matter what. So when he went to take a shower, I had other thoughts. Little uncle? I deliberately raised my tone by 2 points untested by calling towards the shower room, where the water was splashing. There was no response. I looked at the compartment on the 3rd floor, his study. I suddenly felt a rush of excitement. 15 years. Whether it's this home or him, I have seen it countless times inside and out. I thought as I climbed the stairs. The thought of possessing him should have been planted a long time ago. So when someone wanted to be my little aunt when I was young, she bought me candy and bribed me. I would accept the sweet candy while deliberately saying in a muffled voice into the ears of those girls. But just yesterday, there was an uncle who entered little uncle's room. Then I enjoyed watching their surprised expressions. The pride in my heart was almost overflowing. I comforted myself, that little uncle was so strict with me. He shouldn't have an easy time either. But that kind of happiness with my tail up seemed to have long exceeded the possession of family. I didn't understand anything at that time. Now that I realize it, I just don't want him to leave me. I can't accept that anyone makes him like them more than me. He should be the same, right? Otherwise, why is the computer desktop the previous profile picture? That Evie who picked me up. I excitedly rubbed my hands. This is the first time I peeked at his computer. Everyone has secrets. Mobile phone browser, computer history records, best friend's small note. I call it the impossible triangle. No one can get out of here alive. Today, I will break his secret. So my heart was beating hard with excitement, almost jumping out of my blood vessels. I will soon peek into the deepest side of little uncle's heart. I opened his social software. But suddenly my breathing stopped, because on the page that he claimed he never used, it was densely covered with my photos and unknown murmurs behind them, all visible only to himself. I clicked to look. The more I looked, the faster my heart beat, not because of his thoughts. But, could he save some of my good-looking photos? These photos taken inadvertently are really, really ugly. Why can he murmur and say he likes it and it's cute when looking at such ugly photos? I really don't understand. I subconsciously turned off the computer and backed away. And I bumped into a warm chest. What are you looking at? Nothing. I went to the wrong place. I can't tell him that I saw him taking pictures of me secretly. Well, very believable. The man's voice was lazy and teasing behind me. My feet seemed to take root. I could only quietly feel him hug me from behind, rubbing my ear with his chin with a little stubble. It hasn't been long. Did you chase after me on your own? The sheets haven't been changed yet. After I realized what he was talking about, my face flushed red. I tried to avoid by leaning on the wall with my elbow. The wallpaper was silk. It was cool when I slid my hand across, and he pinched my waist from behind and pulled me back in front of him. Evie, dare to act and dare to take responsibility. Who said that men's prime is shortened? One should find a little milk dog. Has Collie really had good things? When I was so tired that my eyes weren't focused, he somehow took out a small water gun and stuffed it into my palm. Holding my finger, he pulled the trigger. You see how suitable it is for you. I was angry and annoyed and sprayed him with the water gun. And he simply became a rogue. Not enough. I was so angry that I climbed on him and bit him, taking revenge for new and old grudges, including the grudge of him taking ugly photos of me. The curtain outside the window swayed. Laughter filled the whole summer, until I couldn't make any more noise and turned over in his arms. Little uncle, you won't leave me, right? His hand paused. He kissed my between the eyebrows. I'm not sure what this means. Maybe something like between the eyebrows? And said, I will love you forever. He didn't answer.